5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Weekend confirmed.
Ignition. Liftoff.
They're sort of,
Oh yeah, look at that.
sort of, yeah.
Delicious.
Dave, you want some?
Because the Cowboys were already taking
Delicious.
this league. And what's really weird is that, I don't know if you checked out Online
Thank you,
Franchise
sir.
at all. It's
haven't
really
played it at
cool.
all.
Thank you,
say
sir.
best guest ever.
I mean,
It's on tape.
Mr. Maker?
Yeah.
Mr. Maker's left
You
his
can have
mark.
that one.
That was a little too much. You
can have
Here, I'll take that one. That's fine.
Wait, this is just apple juice, right, you guys?
That's right. So when you play Online Franchise, your rosters are open. So everybody trades.
Eric, you
So everybody
know,
takes a
get a
team
little bit
and
more
then
than
just
that.
starts
It just
going
becomes
crazy.
its own-
Right.
I don't know.
So some people hold on to their players because they like that team. Other players are
That's a
playing a
good
team
tip.
just
There you
because
go.
they wanted in the league, and they start going nuts. Like the guy who's running the Cowboys. Like I couldn't get the Cowboys, yet the guy who took the Cowboys in this league does not have Miles Austin or Des Bryant anymore because he traded them away.
Huh.
And he
That's
has like
kind of rad.
I know it's like completely bizarre.
It's just a logo. And a,
Yeah, well, then you can kind of mastermind your team the way you would.
That's awesome.
So, you know, like I picked up the Texans, and I have Foster, who's like the backbone of that team, and the first thing I looked at was like the line. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, my offensive line's okay on the left side, but not good on the right side. So I immediately was like, okay, I'm wheeling and deal. I need right side offensive line help. And so what did I have strength at? Well, I had 2 young studs as linebackers. So I made deals to get rid of my linebackers, pick up, quality offensive linemen. So now I've traded that out. Of course, I don't have Mario Williams anymore, which is that's sort of a weakness.
So, is there a player playing every single team in the league?
Yeah.
Wow.
There's a player playing every single
that's
team in
intense.
every
That's
single
really
territory.
rad.
You always- Yeah, so you
That's
match up.
really
It's
rad.
like you play the exact seasons.
That's really
But it's
cool.
completely bizarre because you don't know who you're going up against,
And you have specific set times when you have to play your game?
So we use a Google group, and then you just sort of like, you look up, you see who your next opponent is, and you just say, hey, what time can you play, and what time can you play?
And you have to have your game played by this certain
Yeah, so
time.
we have like a window. Usually the window is like 4 or 5 days, but because of this one guy, like his vacation plan, or not, I guess it may work. I don't know, because of his travel plans, we accelerated the play time so we could get this game in, so we could advance the week. Because you have to play week, and then the commissioner advances the week to the next week.
It's awesome.
So it does like, of course it's tracking stats, and it's like keeping track of.
That is a really cool thing.
It is
Yeah.
really cool. It's
You
really
get
cool.
32
Intense.
people together to do something like that.
Yeah, it's
and, like
nuts.
to stick to it. I mean, that's a big thing. I mean, it takes a lot of dedication to play through.
It's weird because like I played the Dolphins, and of course I'm like, I didn't pay attention to looking at their roster ahead of time. And I'm like, man, they're running the hell all over me. Well, the Dolphins happen to have Jamal Charles as their running back. I'm like, whoa, that's not the Dolphins running back.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's a mutant season.
Yeah,
It's cool. Really make it your own.
It is pretty cool. But I mostly kept like I looked at the Texans. I'm like, okay, so I'm keeping Foster.
Yeah.
I'm keeping Andre Johnson.
Right.
Like they're like the.
They got a good young team. I mean, it's some good players. I play Madden Ultimate Team, so.
Yeah, I saw you were gonna talk about that.
Yeah, can talk about how that's just EA Sports' way of grubbing more money from people.
That's cool because I've looked at it and played around with it some, like when we were doing a review. But I've always sort of looked at it from a review standpoint. I look at that as a sort of sidelight and not core to the game experience. Because I think that a lot of times, like especially when you're reviewing a game, it's easy to get caught up in like the extra features, like Forza's like Auto Vista. Okay, Auto Vista is great, except like you look at the car. It's pretty.
Yeah, right.
And like after you've looked at it a couple times, are you going to go back to Auto Vista a bunch of times?
Don't know.
Not me.
It doesn't really do
Yeah, you're not
anything.
going to log a lot of game hours in
Yeah,
there.
that's
Yeah,
true.
it's like, and they put so much work into it, and they want to make it a big deal, and they want, like they would like it if someone who's reviewing the game would say, oh, well, whatever the game is, it's better by virtue of having this Auto Vista thing. But I don't, I don't really get what's so great about it. And like, Cheapy D likes it because he and his kid look at it, and like,
Right.
that's cool, and it's great for adoring cars, but
It's not like,
I don't
if the
think it
game
brings
was
up the
missing the
game.
Catwoman DLC or something. It's not like that.
I love the Catwoman DLC in Forza. It's awesome.
Yeah, I know, right?
thanks, Eric, for bringing this
Cheers.
Makers
Yes,
to
brilliant.
kick off our
Cheers.
show here. Show number
Cheers.
83.
83.
And so with all that money in play on these AAA and A-level games, of course, the big question is how do digital games compete? How do indie games compete? So that's where we're going to drop to the second break with. When we come back in the third segment, we'll kick off with Jeff and I talking about Orcs Must Die and Dungeon Defenders. I love Orcs Must Die. I don't know. How do you feel about Dungeon Defenders? Is it as
It's
good?
super cool. I don't know if it's as good. I haven't played Orcs Must Die. I just saw it at PAX, so I have not
It's
actually played it. But
fucking fun.
yeah,
It's great. And it really pointed out to me what a hard row to hoe right now these digital games have. Because if you look back over the past few weeks, we have Okabu, we have the original Crisis on a new engine on consoles, we have Euphoria on PSN, we have NBA Jam on Fire, we have Burnout Crash, we have Resident Evil 4 and Code Veronica HD, we've got Blood Rain Betrayal, we've got Missplosion Man, and that's just a few of all these titles.
Yeah, Rocket Birds came out too. Yeah, it's like
So there's all these games.
A lot of
and
games.
They're just set to die. I mean, really. They
Are
might
they?
Yeah. Well, so we can debate that. So my question is, how the hell can these games even get a moment in the popular perception? We can talk about that, much less indies. That's why we have Indie Jeff. Jeff will do the indie segment then. From there, we'll go into the music break. We'll come back from the music break for the final segment with news highlights, starting off with the Vita launch date, going right into the Saints Row the Third Horde mode, which is kind of hilarious, and I just want to include because I mean, you know, who doesn't love who on Weekend Confirmed doesn't love a good play on words?
or dildo physics.
Good old
I'm just
dildo
saying.
physics.
Dildo physics. And wrapping up with a little thing.
Physics?
Dildo physics.
Wow.
Oh my.
Wrapping up with a little thing from Gama Sutra, who looked at the NPDs last week and ascertained that despite the average price of 360 rising, it's still outselling the PS3 in North America. So a little fanboy fodder there, but it's an interesting point, and it shows how much the strategy that Microsoft was employing with their console was to do this Connect pack and bring up the price at retail. So, you know, you figure that plus $60 for live, they're getting a lot. They also are dipping very heavily into the gamer's wallet. And then we've got a little feedback. We've got Groundflyer asking about multiplayer games and online pass, which we'll have already talked about a bunch, but we can kind of like consolidate our opinions and wrap that up there into a nice little ball. Captain Thunderpants talking about how developers are leaning maybe too hard on this idea that console tech isn't advanced enough when it seems like they could be doing more design-wise. And then finally Red Swirl talking about whether or not the core gamer audience is shrinking or not. He thinks it's shrinking.
That's just because it's cold water.
Possibly. And then we'll go
I
to the close.
I got some Skyrim.
Oh yeah, you got some Skyrim. I forgot about that.
Fit that in anywhere.
Why don't you
Played 3 hours
just
of that.
why don't you jab me in the chest when you want to do it?
All right,
You just fit it in wherever you want.
I'll try to fit it in.
Use a shout.
Yeah. Slip it in whenever you want. And then if you want to, we've got Tailgate. We can wrap up with Tailgate. We didn't. You guys didn't do a lot. Are you good with that? How about,
didn't. We
how
talked
about
a
them
lot.
Niners?
How about that?
How about
Damn,
them
how
Niners?
about them Niners?
About them?
Yeah.
Harbaugh's
Hell
kind of a
yeah.
prick, though, isn't he?
Dude,
Whatever works. Whatever works.
he's not a. Come on.
Yeah, he's kind of a prick.
If you,
He's kind of a prick.
oh come on! If you watch instead of watching the 4 seconds that they show of that,
I watched
if you watch
the-
the
I
whole,
watched the game.
He comes skipping up. He's happy. He hits the guy in the back. He hits
Hey.
him on the back. No big deal. And then he goes, "Fuck yeah!" And then dumbass takes that as an insult.
No,
and makes
you know
a
what-
whole
you know what-
thing out
You know
of
what
it.
dumbass took as an insult? The fact that Harbaugh was so like, oh my god, I just won my first high school game as a coach over a pro game, and acted like he had like such a braggart. The NFL isn't like that.
He wasn't a braggart. He was
Yeah,
celebrating with his players. He happened to see the guy. He slapped him on the back, hit him
Have you
on the
watched
back.
the NFL before? Usually there's this thing called sportsmanship, where guys come over and they're like, hey man, great game, it's gonna be alright, you guys played a great game.
He was the first one to admit that he shouldn't have done that. That
So
guy.
it's okay for Harbaugh. It's okay for Harbaugh to be emotional. It's okay for Harbaugh to be emotional.
But Schwartz
not
could have
for
taken Schwartz could have taken the moral high ground. He totally could have taken the moral high ground in the post-game press conference and been like, "Wow, that Harbaugh guy." And I would have been like, "Yeah, that Harbaugh guy. He should have settled down." But he's got to make it a national story by behaving
Okay.
so dumb,
Hey,
like a rest
At
in
least
a
Harbaugh hasn't
musical
dropped his pants yet.
symphony.
I understand 49ers coaches like to do that.
from Singletary.
I'm willing to cut him a little bit of slack because he's turned the Niners into a winning team this
I
year.
agree.
And he's done it because of that emotion.
People are buying into it. I just thought that he was a little over the line there, and it is way blown out of proportion because ESPN needs stories to grab headlines.
yeah.
I get that. I mean, that's way.
And the NFL goes, oh yeah, no, that's not a big deal, guys. We're not finding no.
No one should be fined.
Of course not. It's stupid.
It's stupid.
Yeah, it is stupid.
And the fact that the real crime is that
The real crime.
the real tragedy is that it overshadowed an incredible game and an amazing comeback. You know, down 10 points
Well-
and in a very difficult stadium to play in.
How about Brady?
Yeah,
That shit was ridiculous.
Yeah, he's a very good player.
Great player.
He's a very good
He's
player.
a great
What a
player,
limit.
man. Look, you know I'm a diehard Cowboys fan. That was an amazing drive.
It wasn't.
I mean, I think that it was impressive that Ryan put a defensive scheme out there that stopped them as long as it did. I was shocked that Garrett was so worried about not fucking up that he was like two yards in a cloud of dust when they got the ball back. It's like you get the ball back in your 20 and you run DeMarco Murray into the line 3 times.
Yeah.
What are you doing, dude?
No, I agree. They should never have been in the position to have Brady make that drive. You give
Your
that
defense had a
quarterback.
great stop.
Yeah.
Like 4 minutes left, your defense holds them 3 and out. You get the ball back,
Yeah.
and you're like, and then you go into like high school.
What did you
football.
think was going to happen?
So,
I thought the Cowboys were gonna come out and
No,
I'm like,
I'm saying if you do that and you give them the ball
Oh,
back, what do you think is
you
going to
know what's
happen?
gonna
Exactly.
Right. I mean, you can't even on emotion. You can't put your D right back out on the field and say, guys, all right, you got to do it again because it's just too much to try and cover.
That's an interesting fun name for it.
Oh, by the way, you know we both.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
We can confirm.
Ignition. Liftoff.